The end of 2006 was a period where Capcom celebrated another financial win. According to Statista, Capcom has earned 70.2 billion yen for net sales in 2006, which was a 6.6% increase from their previous annual net sales. Their biggest selling game at the time was still Resident Evil 4. Other Capcom's best-selling game at the time was Monster Hunter Freedom for the Sony PSP, selling 1.3 million copies. It was the start of Monster Hunter becoming the company's Big 3 series along with Resident Evil and Street Fighter. Sengoku Basara 2, that came out on July 2006, was able to sell 286,000 copies in Japan. The game was the 44th best-selling game in Japan by the end of 2006, according to Famitsu. A small correction for this video, as I said 45th in the last retrospective video. By March of 2007, Capcom was the 7th video game company with the highest Japanese market share, above Sony Computer Entertainment and Koei. In estimation, Sengoku Basara 2 contributed around 11% of the annual sales for the Japanese market. Since Sengoku Basara 2 sold better than the first Sengoku Basara game and contributed 11% of Capcom's annual sales, the company decided to expand on the success of the game. When it comes to Koei's Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games, they used to release expansions called Extreme Legends. Capcom would do the same for Sengoku Basara 2 and released an expansion on November of 2007 called Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. Now, this is a game that I have been wanting to cover in my channel. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was how I got started with the Sengoku Basara series. This game is probably one of the most popular PlayStation 2 games here in my home country of Indonesia. In fact, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the most popular Musou game here in Indonesia. A lot of kids who grew up with the PlayStation 2 have played this game. Many Indonesian gamers are more familiar with Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes than any of the Dynasty or Samurai Warriors games. I often consider Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was the start of the series becoming a multimedia franchise. This game alone made Sengoku Basara popular in Asian countries outside of Japan. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, in my opinion, is one of the best games in the series. In fact, I made a controversial opinion last year where I said Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the best musou-like game for the PlayStation 2, better than any of the Koei's Warriors games for that system. So, what makes Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes one of the best games in the series? What makes this game an instant classic among fans of the series? And how did this game launch the series into greater heights? We are going to discuss everything in this video as we take a retrospective of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. In Koei's Warriors games, Extreme Legends is the updated expansion of the respective Dynasty or Samurai Warriors game. The expansion contains new content and sometimes new characters that are not in the original base game. However, Extreme Legends by itself does not have the original content of the base game. Therefore, you need both the original Dynasty or Samurai Warriors game and the Extreme Legends expansion to get the full package. This was the practice during the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 era of Koei's Warriors games. Capcom adapted the expansion concept in a different way. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is not an expansion add-on for Sengoku Basara 2. Instead, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes acts as a different game entirely. In a way, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the perfect version of the original Sengoku Basara 2. This was not a new practice for Capcom, as they have been doing these kinds of updates since the Street Fighter 2 days. After Street Fighter 2, you got Street Fighter 2 Special Champion Edition, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Hyper Street Fighter 2, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix, Ultra Street Fighter 2, and the list goes on and on. In the context of a Musou game, the best comparison for Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is Koei's Samurai Warriors 4-2 that came out in 2015. Samurai Warriors 4-2 is not an expansion add-on for Samurai Warriors 4. Instead, the game acts as another side and the perfect version of Samurai Warriors 4. The gameplay is very similar to the original Samurai Warriors 4, but it has its own set of content that differs from Samurai Warriors 4. The same can be said about Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. This game plays very much like original Sengoku Basara 2, but it has its own set of content and even different presentation from Sengoku Basara 2. Let's go over the visual presentation first. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes' visual presentation is completely different from Sengoku Basara 2 other than the in-game graphics. Remember when I said that Sengoku Basara 2 doesn't have any anime-style cutscenes and everything is CG? Well, Capcom took a different route in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. This game has no pre-rendered CG cutscenes and everything is anime style. Other aspects of visual presentation are different as well, such as menu screen, character select screen, battle preparation screen, and even the UI. I do believe the overall visual presentation of this game is better than the original Sengoku Basara 2. Just like the original Sengoku Basara 2, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is a character story-driven game. However, not every character has a story in the game. The game has two different story modes, Hero Story and Gaiden Story. Hero Story focuses on the three main newcomers of the game, Katakura Kojuro, Oichi, and Azai Nagamasa. Just like the usual story mode in Musou games, you go over 5 stages per character. The Gaiden Story allows you to play as 5 characters, in which one of them is a newcomer. The newcomer for the Gaiden Story is Fumakotaro, while the returning fan favorites are Date Masamune, Sanada Yukimura, Maeda Keiji, and Chosokabe Motochika. Unlike the Hero Story, the Gaiden Story only has 3 stages per character. Since the story mode only has 8 characters in total, what about the rest of the characters? You have 30 playable characters total in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, and all of them are playable in other modes, such as Conquest Mode, Free Mode, Tournament Mode, and Versus Mode. We will get to the other modes in this video eventually. This is just like in Samurai Warriors 4 2, where the game only focuses on a handful of characters in terms of the story. However, here's where Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes differs from Samurai Warriors 4 2. In Samurai Warriors 4 2, you have missing stages from Samurai Warriors 4 that are not playable in the game. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, however, every stage from the story mode of the original Sengoku Basara 2 are playable in the free mode. In total, you have 64 stages that you can play in the free mode. So, even with the absence of character stories from the original Sengoku Basara 2, you can still play those battles in this game. The overall presentation is improved from the original Sengoku Basara 2, as Capcom wanted to have a more anime style for Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, to make it distinguished from Koei's Samurai Warriors games. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was Capcom's attempt to not only make the game more artsy and stylish, but also to deliver the best version of Sengoku Basara 2. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the first game in the series to have a 2-player mode. It took them 2.5 games to have a 2-player mode, but it's finally here. Now, you can only play 2 players in 3 different modes: Conquest Mode, Tournament Mode, and Versus Mode. You cannot play 2 players in the Hero Story and Gaiden Story, which I somewhat understand since Capcom wanted the story to be very individual focused, I guess. I do, however, find it really weird that you cannot play 2 players in free mode. Regardless, Capcom finally added co-op in this Sengoku Basara game. As always, Capcom took ideas from Koei's Warriors games and gave their own spin in Sengoku Basara. So how does co-op work differently in this game? You know, whenever you play co-op in Dynasty or Samurai Warriors, the game is over whenever one player dies. Although I have played a lot of co-op in Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games, this bothers me a bit, mainly because you have 2 separate health bars for each player. It gets a bit annoying as well when your co-op mate is an absolute noob. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, whenever one player dies in co-op, the game doesn't stop. It's not game over. The game is over when both players die in co-op. If one player dies, then the other character has a chance to revive the dead player. To revive your fallen comrade, you simply need to stand in the circle near him to regenerate his health. Once his health is fully regenerated, he is back in action. I really love what Capcom did here in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. Not only does this distinguish Sengoku Basara with Koei's Warriors games, but this makes co-op a more enjoyable experience. In my opinion, there is no reason to have 2 separate health bars in co-op only for the game to be over when one player dies. If that's where you want to go, you might as well just make one shared health bar for both characters. Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks is a good example of that. I always consider Musou games to be the spiritual successor of arcade beat-em-up games. In those games, the game doesn't stop whenever one player dies in a co-op run. Considering Capcom was one of the leading producers of arcade beat-em-up games in the 80s and 90s, applying a revival mechanic in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was not something out of the blue for them. If anything, it's a welcomed addition. The action doesn't stop until both players die in co-op. With this aspect alone, I highly recommend people to play Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes co-op and have a blast, especially those who are fans of Musou games. It's a game that you certainly need to give a shot. Out of all the Sengoku Basara games in the series, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the richest game in terms of content. There are so many unlockables in this game that are going to make you spend hours and hours playing the game. For start, in both Hero Story and Gaiden Story, whenever you completed a character, you can unlock alternate colors of characters' default costumes. Since Hero Story has 5 stages per character, you will unlock 5 different character alternate colors. There are 3 characters in the Hero Story, so you will unlock a total of 15 different character alternate colors. The Gaiden Story has 5 characters and 3 stages per character, so you will also unlock a total of 15 different character alternate colors. Hence, you will unlock all 30 alternate colors by completing both Heroes and Gaiden stories. Every character also has an alternate costume that is completely different from their default ones. Just like in the original Sengoku Basara 2 game, you unlock the alternate costumes by completing Conquest mode with the respective character. In total, all of the 30 characters have 3 different costumes. Unlocking costumes by playing the game. It's a concept I truly missed from a lot of modern Musou games, especially the ones from Koei. Nowadays, you need to buy DLCs even just to get a different color. Just like Sengoku Basara 2, every character has 8 different weapons. The 2nd, 4th, and 6th weapons you can get as random drops in battles. The 3rd, 5th, and 7th weapons are purchasable in the shop of the preparation menu screen. The final weapon you can unlock by completing the tournament mode. It's not just weapons that you can unlock for characters. You can also unlock and equip armor pieces for every character. Each character has 3 different armor pieces. Equipping the armor piece increases your character's defense. The first armor piece is purchasable in the shop. The second armor piece can be unlocked by completing Conquest mode. The third and final armor piece can be unlocked by completing the tournament mode. I forgot to mention this in the previous Sengoku Basara 2 retrospective video. In Sengoku Basara 2 and Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, you have a shop in the battle preparation menu. The shop enables you to unlock weapons, armor pieces, upgrades, and items. Speaking of items, Capcom applied a similar item system from Koei's Dynasty Warriors series. In games like Dynasty Warriors 5, you can equip items to your playable characters to apply certain effects. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, it's more or less the same thing. There are 150 items that you can unlock in this game. However, there is one major addition that Capcom made to distinguish itself from Koei's Warriors games. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, you have character-specific items. This means certain items can only be equipped for certain characters to apply the effect. I give example. Masamune's special item allows him to use the 6-sword stance by default. This effect only happens if you equip this item on Masamune. If you equip Masamune's personal item to someone else, let's say Keiji, then there is no effect on Keiji. To understand how all of the 150 items work, I highly recommend you to check out this video from Pikachu. Once you are done with this video, give his video a watch. Link to his video is in the description below. I really like the concept of personalized items in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. As I have said multiple times, Capcom's goal in Sengoku Basara was always about characters' individuality. Having personalized items for characters adds more to the individuality and uniqueness to the characters. It's amazing how Capcom would go all this way just to distinguish themselves from Koei's Dynasty and Samurai Warriors games. One of the reasons why I keep saying Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the best musou-like game on the PlayStation 2 is the amount of content the game is providing. This game has so many unlockables that adds the replay value. It is not only the richest Sengoku Basara game to date in the series, but it is the richest musou-like game on the PlayStation 2. Other than story modes and conquest mode, the game has two additional modes: Tournament mode and Versus mode. Tournament mode in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is more or less the same as the one in the original Sengoku Basara 2. In this version of the tournament mode, however, you control two characters as a tag team instead of one. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes has two different tournaments. The first tournament is called Grand Tournament, which is pretty much the standard tournament that we have in the original Sengoku Basara 2. You go over 100 levels in the tournament, in which completing it will unlock the 8th weapon and the 3rd armor piece for both of your respective characters. You also earn a lot of EXPs that are distributed equally for both of your respective characters. The second tournament is called Ultimate Grand Tournament. The gameplay is more or less the same as the regular Grand Tournament. The only difference is that you collect money instead of EXPs. This tournament also has a time limit, so you need to finish everything before the timer runs out. Versus mode made its debut in the game. Versus mode puts two characters against each other in one of 8 types of competition. Some of the competitions include a whack-a-mole game, a one-on-one bridge fight, a 2-on-2 tornado tag team match, and get the most KOs game. Although it's not what people go to whenever they play a hack-and-slash musou-like game, but it is still a fun addition to add replay value. It's really interesting how Capcom greatly added the replay value from Sengoku Basara to Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. The game is a good example of keeping what works in the previous games while adding content and improvement to make it better. Let's talk about the characters in the game. As I mentioned earlier in this video, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes has a roster of 30 playable characters. Each and every character in the game has their own unique moveset that reflects their individual personality. Well, almost everyone is unique. Two characters in this game are semi-clones, Tokugawa Ieyasu and Honganji Kenyo. Tokugawa Ieyasu is a semi-clone of Maeda Toshie, while Honganji Kenyo is a semi-clone of Takeda Shingen. I say semi-clone because they only share the same normal attacks. Meanwhile, all of these characters have completely different special and Basara attacks. The game also introduced one unique NPC, Matsunaga Hisahide. He acts as the main villain for the poster boy of the game, Katakura Kojuro. There are other unique generals as well in the game. You have the Miyoshi Trio, who acts as Hisahide's personal bodyguards. Other unique generals in this game are the Gohonyari, or the 5 Spears, which is basically a spoof of Super Sentai.
Look out, Rita! We're not backing down because we're the Power Rangers!
I want to talk a little bit about the lore behind the main 3 newcomers of the game and the possible inspiration behind them. The first newcomer and the poster boy of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is Katakura Kojuro. Now, the name Kojuro itself was actually a given name or a title rather than an individual name. The name represented the head of the Katakura clan and also the loyal retainer of the Date clan. The Kojuro that was portrayed in the game was actually the first Kojuro, Katakura Kagetsuna. According to some legends, the first Kojuro was responsible for gouging Masamune's right eye. The reason why Kojuro did it was to prevent a spreading disease that was manifesting in Masamune's right eye. Since then, Kojuro devoted his life to protect Masamune and served him as his missing right eye. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, Kojuro serves as Masamune's loyal guardian. What's interesting about Kojuro in this game is that he is left-handed. Considering Masamune only has his left eye and is right-handed, Kojiro, being Masamune's right eye, is left-handed in order to draw some form of mirrored parallels. The second newcomer is the younger sister of Oda Nobunaga, Oichi. Her historical lore is very tragic. She was married to Azai Nagamasa, who was a rivaling warlord of his brother. The marriage of Oichi and Nagamasa was to maintain a peaceful alliance between the Oda and the Azai clan. However, Nagamasa betrayed that alliance with the Oda in order to maintain an alliance with another familial ally. As a result, Oichi was torn between siding with her husband and her brother. Eventually, she chose to side with her husband. Unfortunately, Nagamasa lost the war against the Oda and died. As punishment, Nobunaga took Nagamasa's skull and used it as a drinking cup. It is said in some legends that Oichi had to witness this. To call that a traumatic experience is an understatement. In terms of her portrayal in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, she appears as a melancholic character. It is not out of the realm of possibility that Capcom took inspiration from other fiction. If I have to make a guess, Oichi's appearance and character might be heavily inspired by Ai Enma from the anime Jigoku Shoujo or Hell Girl. Another theory that made me to believe this is the fact that both Oichi and Ai Enma were voiced by Noto Mamiko.
いっぺん死んでみる? Nagamasa-sama? 見える? 名店へと続く門が.
The third newcomer is Azai Nagamasa. I already explained his historical lore when I discussed on Oichi, so I'm not going to repeat myself. In some legends, he was portrayed as a man with a high sense of justice and dignity. Capcom, who wanted to make characters as expressive and over-the-top as possible based on their historical lore, made Azai Nagamasa a superhero. Seriously, this guy is basically just a samurai Kamen Rider. As I have said multiple times, Capcom's goal in Sengoku Basara was to make characters as unique as possible and correspond to their respective historical lore. Now, it's not just portrayal and gameplay that made characters in this series unique. There is one other aspect that I have not mentioned in the previous video that made characters in Sengoku Basara even more unique. I mentioned in my previous video that every character in Sengoku Basara 2 has their own theme music when you fight them as bosses. This is a trend that Capcom kept as the series progressed. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes has new theme music as well for the new playable characters. One of the reasons why Capcom gave characters their own theme music is to give more individuality and personality to them. There is one major detail that Capcom gave to characters to make them even more unique. In games like Dynasty and Samurai Warriors, whenever your playable character dies, they just drop dead. In Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes, Capcom gave every character their unique death animation that reflects their respective personality. I absolutely love this detail. It's again one of those instances where Capcom went the extra mile to distinguish themselves from Koei. By doing so, Capcom showed more style in Sengoku Basara and even better production value. This unique death animation would be a standard for future Sengoku Basara games to come. On a side note, Ishikawa Takanori, aka TM Revolution, returned to sing the opening song of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. This time, he was under a band called Abingdon Boys School. This opening song has been living rent-free in my head since 2007. These kinds of small details is the reason why I'm a fan of Sengoku Basara. It's really impressive the amount of thought and care Capcom put out in their more niche series like Sengoku Basara. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is no doubt one of the best games in the series. To me, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is a complete package musou-style game. The game has a good campaign, a 2-player co-op, a roster of 30 playable characters, multiple unlockables, a fun gameplay, a decent challenge, and multiple complementary game modes. Everything that I wanted for a musou game is here in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. Capcom was able to put their best effort in Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes despite being the lesser-known video game title compared to Koei's Dynasty and Samurai Warriors. According to Famitsu, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes on the PlayStation 2 was able to sell around 198,000 copies in Japan. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was a commercial success in Japan for Capcom, to the point where they re-released the game twice. The first one was Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes Double Pack for the Nintendo Wii, released in 2008, and the second one was Sengoku Basara HD Collection for the PlayStation 3, released in 2012. Hence, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes is the game with the most releases in the series. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes became a huge hit in Japan. The game was also able to create a large following in Asian countries outside of Japan, such as Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and of course, the country where I'm living, Indonesia. This game had a really strong fan base in Indonesia. Almost everyone who grew up with the PlayStation 2 know about Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was indeed the start of the rise in popularity of the series. Although sales-wise, Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was not able to compete with Koei's Warriors games at the time, the popularity of the game was able to push the series into different forms of media. The popularity of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes was able to spawn an anime series with 3 seasons, 2 OVAs, 1 movie, and 1 comedy spin-off. The anime was produced by Production IG, who is most famous with anime series such as Attack on Titans, Kuroko no Basket, and Haikyuu. The Sengoku Basara anime itself was a success. The anime was even adapted to the West under the name Sengoku Basara Samurai Kings. Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes also spawned the creation of an official 4-volume manga based on the game called Sengoku Basara 2. The manga, just like the anime, was even localized in the West under the title Sengoku Basara Samurai Legends. Capcom was able to create a multimedia franchise after the release of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. It became so popular that Capcom attempted one more time to localize Sengoku Basara in the West. Considering they have localized both the anime and manga in the West, the next Sengoku Basara game would be Capcom's second attempt to localize a Sengoku Basara game in the West. So that's it for the retrospective video of Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes. What are your thoughts on Sengoku Basara 2 Heroes? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give me a thumbs down. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, join the Profar Mokuri Hunter X Discord server, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
今はやからぜ君だけに 注ぐ切なさがたどり着く孤独の淵で枯れない想いひとひらの花びらが僕を今揺らしてさらにだに打ち抜くほども